Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Step by Step. Today we got a special one. We're doing the Black Mage caves. Yes, very. I think the recent episode I did was a Red Mage kind of map, and I figured why not do at least my party in Final Fantasy. And do a Black Mage map. So let's get into it. So as you know, we always start off with the 25 by 25 grid, and we're gonna turn it black like we always do. Now, what Inkarnate did with their starting, again, sorry about the cats. They like to talk when I'm talking. But anyway, what I like to do when Inkarnate usually starts is you have to add a layer of land. So they have the land feature where you can make or do less land, and then that's like a water source or something like that, and that'll come into play later. But right now we're just doing the outline of the caves. We went ahead and did this like rocky surface, but I didn't want it to be red. So you turn the saturation down, you turn the contrast up a bit, and then you kind of just sketch it out. It's not too hard. However, these little like, one by one nodules, I'm not a big fan of. And as you can see, I kind of like skip a little bit to give it some corners that aren't technically 5 feet by 5 feet. And as you can see, I also accidentally curved it there. But we went ahead and like kind of skipped and made like diagonal walls. It's not the first time I've done this, but I do notice, however, in like combat and using these maps, it's kind of frustrating when your player is like halfway in the wall, even though they're just standing right next to it or it like by the wall, which isn't a big deal, but you really gotta like keep in mind that if you're using what I use is the lighting effects from Roll20. That's the system I use for Roll20. You have to keep in mind that they can see pretty much everything outside of their character. So if they're in a wall, they can see that other side of the wall. So they could see like monsters that you hit or notes that you've put down. So just keep that in mind for diagonal or weirdly shaped caves. We are just kind of fixing up the flooring and just the way it looks, and we're gonna go ahead and start. I believe we start looking at stamps. We went ahead and did a couple like rocks. We wanted to like sprinkle those around, make it look kind of lived in, semi lived in. Because obviously, I mean, you can get like there's obviously rocks in the ground for the stencil that I used, which is just the gray rock stone. But you always want to add some depth to it. We went ahead and added a summoning circle, or I think I did change this. No, I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure this is when I was like, oh, I think we should do one of those, crystals for every single one, like almost like a protection kind of thing, like all these characters that I'm doing in Final Fantasy protected a single crystal, and I just choose one of those crystals to, give them. So what I went with for this one, I believe, is the water crystal, which it does make more sense for the fire crystal, but I gave that to the red mage, and I was like, nah, we can do the water crystal. It's not that big a deal. And as you could tell, as soon as I turned the saturation all the way down, they're near almost impossible to see, which I wasn't a big fan of. So I had to darken them significantly to make them stand out a bit more. And we went ahead, and these are just like pedestals that I did. I figured it kind of makes them a little more, I don't know, distinguished. And then we went with the crystal on each pedestal. We're gonna change them. We went with red, and again, I'm pretty sure we changed it to blue, but we went with red crystals and we just plopped them. Kind of changed their orientation to make them look a little unique. Make them look like you put effort into it. And we gave it a summoning circle, or a little sketch circle. Put that right there. And then, like I said, it doesn't really look right. So I was like, I don't know. So I was looking at traps and stuff, and I saw that they had like lasers, or electric trap I think it's what it's called. So I changed that to red. Well, as red as I can get it. Some tokens and some things just can't be the color that you want, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. But then I believe I started decorating like the main area, and I went with a couple desks. These desks are great, very alchemically sound, whatever you want to call them. Alchemist, that's what I was looking for. And a black mage would have an alchemist table. They would also have multiple robes, which is why I'm putting up these mannequins. And then they would have what did I put? Oh yeah, braziers. So I went with like a brazier, and I was like, like these areas where I put these like big rugs, I always figured, I was like, that's probably where they like train regularly. You'll see a little later that I actually put like a place to train like magic and stuff. So this giant rug is more or less like if a different party came in and challenged the Black Mage, he would just do it on the mat then, or on the rug. And then we went ahead and put some tables. Remember, we did put those rocks, so make sure you move them out of the way. Unless you want rocks on your table, in which case it's not that big a deal. Then we needed to put some just like homey things, so a fireplace. In hindsight, we probably should have put like a stack of wood, because it doesn't make sense that a fireplace doesn't have a stack of wood next to it. We went ahead and grabbed, I think I was looking for a bonfire or some sort of like chest, and I found the like arcane chest area thing, or the alchemist supplies here. We just kind of twisted them, put them on the table, put them next to the table. I saw the globe, I was like, all right, let's get the terrarium, and then a bunch of open books, which I thought, sure, let's do some open books. Rotate them a little bit, resize them, because some of them are a little too big. And then a scroll we'll just put on top. And then some books. They have these really cool like top-down view books of like if they were on a shelf. So I went ahead and put those on on the table. And then we went with crates. I think we were looking for regular crates, but ended up being like, no. It's really hard to determine, because I was like, I saw the staff and I was like, all right, let's put a staff. And then I see the wands and I'm like, all right, let's put some wands around. You kind of get sidetracked with the amount of choices you have, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. It's just your original thought could get lost in the shuffle, you know. And I wanted a weapon rack, and then we changed it to regular size. Do keep in mind that Inkarnate does, when you click a object, when you select a new object, it will be the same size as the previous object. And then we went with a bed, and I think we changed the color, the hue of the bed to be more like blue, to kind of match the theme of blue and yellow, which is the theme of the Black Mage in the Final Fantasy games. And then we went with, I believe we used you can use the snap to grid tool to instantly make any object snap to the middle of a grid or to the corners of a grid. And that's what I did with the braziers, to make them even. We went with a circle rug, put it on the bottom layer, made sure we moved our rocks out of the way. And then we went with the parchment world. You'll see later that I, again, went in and you can download an image and use it how you see fit. You can see that I struggled with it a little bit. I wanted to get that golden yellow, but it never really popped. At least in the way that I wanted, but I kept trying and trying. I even used color burn. I was like, oh, maybe this works. I'm like, nope, it does not work. And then I tried to fix it, and I was like, no, hue, saturation, color, contrast. Yeah, just none of it was working, and I was starting to get a little frustrated. Even layering it, I was like, it's still not working. So I just pretty much undid all the things that I did just do, and we went with as yellow as I could get it, as gold as I can get it, and I was like, that'll be fine. You'll see later in the video that I changed it to the Black Mage symbol, which is, I believe, almost like a meteor kind of symbol, a big round circle with spikes as if impacting like a meteor or comet. In this little section over here, I decided this would be where he tests or practices his magic, and I figured what would be the backdrop of some place he would just throw magic. I was like, oh, let's look at the sci-fi stuff. Let's see what sci-fi stuff they have. And I was like, oh, well, they have these glowing cliffs that could be useful. And I thought they looked pretty cool. I was like, they're pretty cool, and it's almost as if the rock itself has been absorbing the magic for so long that it's transformed the rock. So we went with that, and I think it looks really good. I think we did change the hue a little bit, and we had to kind of move it into place. Because again, when you have cliffs on cliffs, you're bound to overextend, which is essentially completely taking over a 5x5 grid, which is a square with an entire cliff, which is okay to do. It's just you have less room in that room now. We went ahead and started decorating this room by duplicating. I figured we'd have a table in here with a bunch of like books and wands. I think I definitely remember putting wands on there, and then we wanted to crack the ground, you know, for the fire spells and the lightning spells that we cast over there. Please, obviously, if you've made a lot of changes, it says reconnect your network to resume autosave or consider saving an offline backup. That tells me that my Wi-Fi went out at this point, or just accidentally like got disconnected or something like that. Please save your work. Don't be me. I definitely got it in the end, obviously, but it could have very much been corrupted. And if you've ever had a map on Inkarnate be corrupted, it's really hard to save. So you can see we're adding little dark spots for fire burns, and we look back at the effects, and we do impact craters or impact blasts, essentially. We also did some magic, some little like fairy lights and stuff like that. And then we went ahead and, like I said, put some books on the table to represent like you're testing some magic. Some wands, testing different wands out. Obviously you don't want to put a wand right behind a black line. Your players will never see it. So there was no point in putting it. So you got to make sure if you're putting something there, you're putting it for your players to see. Now here is where I was telling you to add or subtract things. If you can tell, I was subtracting, but it was the opposite. So technically, this entire map is water, and I just added a bunch of land, which isn't ideal. We went ahead and grabbed a water. I went with a dark water. The whole concept of this, by the way, was if you're going into this, the cats are talking. If we're going into this cave, the one hurdle that you're gonna have is you have to get past a simple like water cat. Sorry. You have to get past like simple water, which you would use the blizzard spell, I want to say, in Final Fantasy, or Blizzardo or something like that, or Blizz, I think it's called, where you would freeze the water or cast water walk, or in some way just get across the water using magic. Kind of like it's almost like a lock on a door, you know. That's the key to it, is to just get across. You know, nobody goes into a cave and sees a bunch of water and decides to like go into it and wade into it and go out the other side unless they're actively like searching and stuff. So it does keep certain people at bay, but I guess you know, in hindsight it's 2020, so I guess someone would, you know, not care about getting wet, but I thought it was a cool concept. We went ahead and put some light at the front, and as you can see, I changed the symbol on the carpet, and I think I definitely changed the crystal, like the summoning circle, in some way. But other than that, I think it's a great map. As you all know, all the maps are on the Patreon. It's free. Just become a member. It's free to become a member. I post all the maps there. It's just, it does take time to do so, because I usually like dump all the maps at once, and then, move on. But I want to thank you very much for watching. This was a very fun episode for me. Obviously, it's the Black Mage Caves. That's what I am, the little Black Mage, a little DM, But I want to thank you all for stopping by. Like, comment, all the YouTube shit. And I'll see you in the next one.